I also inherited one of the more heavier topics today, healthcare. We're going to talk about affordable healthcare today in the Indian context and collaborations between India and Sweden. Without good health, we have no one to live in the smart cities, we have no one to buy our consumer goods, and we have no growth, no economic growth, no productivity. Healthcare is ill health is one of the factors that is the most draining to our society. So how do we work together to make people healthier? Gandhiji, who has been quoted several times today, had a favorite song, and it went like this. Jodi tor dak shune kyo na ashe tobe ekla chalo re. If nobody heeds your call, you will go on alone to fight your fight and to face your challenges. Are you with me in this fight to actually engage with the community and find solutions to these challenges? Are you with me? Or have I lost you all already? Because I will go on and continue this fight alone, but I hope that I have your engagement and commitment to make sure we have a healthier population in Sweden and in India, and all over the world, because these things are not in silos. What happens here, what happens in India, actually affects global health. So the topic today is affordable healthcare, but what we're really going to talk about are collaborations, people that can work together, engaging every sector of society, every type of organization, to find solutions, to work together, and to contribute to improving our own health and the health of the people around us and the ones that we care about the most. So with me on this panel, I'm Shampa, Bari. I represent Swecare Foundation. And if you have any questions about India-Sweden collaborations in healthcare, please come to me. I work very closely with the Indian Embassy, with India Unlimited, SIBC, and try to actually engage this community as much as possible in order to face these challenges. Our funding comes mostly from the Socialdepartementet, so the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare. But our engagement is truly across all types of both private sector and public sector actors. So with me today is Carsten Grönblad, who is the Trade Commissioner for, in India for Business Sweden. Please join me. We have Magnus Björsne, who is the CEO of BioVentureHub, which sits under AstraZeneca in Gothenburg. And a man who needs no introduction, Professor Sanjeevi Carani, who is a scion of our expat community. Or actually, you're not an expat anymore, you're Swedish yourself, but Indian at heart. So welcome to the stage with me. I'll let Carsten go first with a few words about how we work in India within healthcare and about your projects that you've been very committed to over the past few years in affordable healthcare.
Okay, thank you. If you allow me to start stating that I think I have one of the best jobs in the world, actually. Because in the role as Business Sweden, we get to know the most innovative companies in Sweden, and we actually also get to connect them to the most sort of suitable and innovative partners in India. And I think that's a very, very fun and very rewarding work we have here. So in the healthcare sector, we have been working to addressing some of the challenges that are not specifically typical to India, because they are the same here in Sweden. But in India, as you say, the scale is of course much bigger, and the starting phase is also different, what we know in Sweden. So for example, we have a very growing population. We have also growing more welfare diseases coming up with non-communicable diseases as diabetes and oncology. And all that, of course, is something that's changed quite rapidly, and it's very hard in the old structure to keep up with that in producing the amount of doctors and also giving the access and also the affordability to great healthcare. So one of the main challenges is actually to deliver the best necessary and healthcare, to do it in a person-centric way, where you can sort of get the most bang for the buck that you put into the system. So the main question is actually how to do that. And from our angle, and what we also see in the business environment is, of course, that you need to collect a lot of data. You need to see how how can you measure the impact of different type of treatments? And also, how can you use new type of technology to actually battle one of those main challenges that we are structurally facing today, to give more access to healthcare, but in an affordable way. So innovation is very much the key there, and innovation not as driving a premium to the services. It's more innovation to enable better impact and also better quality and cost to that. We also see that from India perspective, there are some very interesting things going on at the moment. We have reforms coming up with Moderator, enabling more than 400 million people coming up in the healthcare system. And we also see a lot of new startups in India from not healthcare sectors, but driven by digitalization that can offer very interesting solutions in diagnostics and also in treatment. So there we have launched a project together with AstraZeneca to invite and search for the best solutions for the future in remote diagnostics and treatment. So we will look forward to take that further, inviting Indian and Swedish companies and startups to participate. Thank you.
Okay, I want to disagree. I think I have the best job. I call myself an innovation futurist. AstraZeneca, as a pharmaceutical company, our entire business model is innovation. And we spend a lot of time in the industry to discuss. Do you want me to use slides now?
If you want to.
I can do that, yes. So we spend a lot of time discussing what to invent. And innovation is an utterly complex process. But if we talk about disruptive innovation, it brings that complexity to a total different level. And I think we as a community need to discuss the how a bit more. And AstraZeneca is launching, as part of the India Innovation Initiative that was mentioned here, an innovation challenge in India, which to a great extent is inspired by what we have done in Sweden. And I will spend a few minutes taking you through what we have done. So innovation in the pharmaceutical industry will increasingly be about cross-sector innovation. A product will no longer be just a drug or just a device. It will be a combination of these 4 different Ds: diagnostics, drugs, digital, and devices. So what we have done in Mölndal here in Sweden is to totally open up our R&D site. And we have now 30 companies that are co-locating with our people inside our R&D unit. And it's all about economy of scale in a large organization like ours, combined with flexibility of our own resource utilization. So it's basically the sharing economy applied to life science. It's not Uber taxis, it's Uber science. As we move ahead, what we have tried to do here is really to change the mindset of how we create innovation. So it's all about the hows. It's a very clear purpose, and it's not short monetary returns. It's about trying to use resources in a different way in order to foster innovation and create new type of innovation. It's about getting rid of hierarchies and instead work in a networked way. So these 30 autonomous companies have no legal ties to AstraZeneca, but they are all complementary when it comes to skill base and knowledge. It's about moving into empowerment rather than control, and experimentation instead of planning. If you go into a relationship and you plan it, I don't think you will be a good husband. It's all about evolving that relationship. And that's the type of environment we have created here. This have consequences, and I think this has been a challenge for AstraZeneca. We have done this now since 2015. It's a collaboration with the Swedish government and local government in Western Sweden. It's all about openness, so there are no confidentiality agreements, no NDAs. It's all about transparency. And what we do here is to mix drugs, devices, and digital in order to create innovation without being in the need to create business plans. Because if you drive collaborations based on business cases, it means you know what you want to achieve. And to me, that's not innovation, it's product development. So how can we interact with each other to create innovation? That's all what this is about. And now I'm out of time, so I stop there, but I have one very interesting slide left.
cliffhanger.
Go ahead. We'll come back to your slide if we have enough time.
I'm Dr. Sanjeevi. I'm an MD from India, and my PhD is from Karolinska Institute. I've been in Sweden now for almost 30 years. And one of the things that I have been practicing a lot is to connect people. So it's no longer a logo or a mantra of Nokia. So connecting people is something that you can do outside the telecommunication as well. So can I have my first slide? I'll quickly go through my slides. And so the emphasis that I'm going to provide today is the effort that's being made on affordable and accessible healthcare. This affordable and accessible healthcare is important from the point of view of how you can connect people in India who are majority in the middle class, and some of the recent statistics show that 900 million Indians are in the middle class in various sectors, lower, middle, and upper middle. And you also have 200 million poor people, and they also need solutions that could be affordable and accessible. So some of the thoughts that we have been going through in connecting Swedish companies with Indian companies is to try and get the Swedish companies to provide affordable healthcare in India. You cannot sell products that you sell in Sweden at Swedish prices to Indians in India. That could probably serve the top few percent of the rich people. They can anyway fly to Sweden or Europe and get that particular healthcare availability. So our focus is predominantly in certain areas that are really going to make an impact, and those impact already measures into the largest number of base that we would like to address. So digital healthcare is one of the important areas, and we have problems in digital healthcare. No, I mean problems in healthcare in rural areas. And now one of the information that's out is that 1 billion Indians have smartphones. So if you have a smartphone, you have a camera in a smartphone, and if you can connect the camera in the smartphone to a doctor that is far away, you can provide digital health solutions at the primary care. So I foresee in the next 5 to 10 years, the primary care physicians are not going to be seeing patients directly, but they are going to be sitting somewhere else. And then what happens is that there is a connectivity that is happening. And when these patients actually require support, then you actually go refer them to a secondary care hospital. So our focus will be on the chain of secondary care hospitals that are spread out. And I am coming from Tamil Nadu, and much of the ideas that I have been mentoring companies in Tamil Nadu is providing this kind of network. So a digital company that provides patients that requires hospitalization will probably go to a secondary care hospital in that particular district. And once you have this, you have something called NetMed, and you have Amazon that is very popular in India. What it does is that it provides goods that you need to your doorstep. So now you have medicines that a doctor is prescribing is going to be made available to your doorstep. And this kind of connectivity is what is very important for future and especially affordable healthcare, where you get rid of all the middlemen. So one of the things that I am going to spend next few minutes is to talk about EU-India Science Innovation Fund. You have a list of priority areas that this innovation fund is focusing, which is £50 million fund that, of course, looks at affordable innovation. The fund is called as PONTAC, and this is going to help European companies reach out to India, and Indian companies come to Europe and work together with the main focus of bringing affordable innovation. So thank you. And if you need to contact me, you can contact me in any of the email addresses for any support that you or your company might require. Thank you.
Professor Karani, I had a question, actually, for you on the get-go. You were talking a lot about new technologies and new innovation. Healthcare is traditionally a conservative sector. How do you balance that new technology, a disruptive technology, with the need for already established, proven solutions in order to assure patient safety?
So I will talk from the point of view of this new fund that we have got, which is a £50 million fund. And this particular fund will focus not just on affordable healthcare, but trying to invest in companies that are interconnected, just 3 examples that I gave you. And most important thing is that you address the middle class and you address the poor people. And I am advisor to a Commonwealth Services company, which goes to doorstep of different villages. And they have something like 6 million people enrolled in Tamil Nadu alone, where they go and provide help to how to access the government services, how to get into the Aadhaar system and things like that. So all you have to do is to add a few more questions to them. How many have hypertension? How many have diabetes? How many have smoking? And when you have this information, then it is easy for you to provide them with solutions that they might require, not just from a therapeutic perspective, but also from a wellness or a preventive perspective. So there are technologies available with the digital revolution that is taking place. Affordability becomes much simpler. As the Indian Prime Minister was saying in one of the meetings recently, a gigabyte of internet connectivity costs less than a cup of tea. So if this is the affordability that we should be able to provide healthcare at affordable cost.
Yeah. Magnus and Carsten, do you have any thoughts about integrating these then to existing systems?
I think it increased availability calls for increased affordability as well. So I think it's really important that all these different parts of the value chain works in synergy here, because I agree that the digital revolution will be a major impact not only in healthcare, it will be everywhere. But I think it also introduces a lot of new complexity. I mean, patient-physician interaction is one part of innovation, but you can use it in so many different ways. And here I think legislations, regulatory aspects are not on par with what happens in industry at this time. And I think any country that could be in the forefront of the regulatory space will be a dream country for these companies to develop digital healthcare. So that, I think, it has to be in concert, all of it.
I think you, Carsten, are best placed to talk about the cooperation then with the government and with other players when it comes to integrating these solutions.
Yeah, I think one of the keys, as mentioned, is the distribution of capability is now much more scattered, and with everyone with a smartphone in the hand, with Aadhaar, there are very vast opportunities now to impose solutions that wasn't possible a few years back. And also another thing in terms of collaboration is that many of those holding the key and the tech to that are companies not necessarily into the healthcare system today. You can find them in data processing, you can find them in the new branch of AI, for example. So all that makes a very, very interesting mix at the moment in India. And of course, if we take the scale into possibility, then of course India is a very interesting country. But I think the collaboration is really key there to use these competences from other fields as well.
How easy is it to work with research companies when it comes to this? And when you're talking about AI, a lot of it is still in a research phase. Well, in AI, it's true. It's very in the starting phase. But the other hand, it's moving so fast now. So the technology is much faster than the regulatory aspect. So I think one key is actually to, if you want to walk in hand, is actually to show cases, how it can look like. You can do small pilots, you can do trials, you can do excellent of centers to showcase how it can look like, and that could be fed into the regulatory process as well.
No, just one comment. I think what was mentioned here about by you is the interaction between the patient and the physician, but that doesn't really solve the problem of good healthcare. So by realizing that more people need healthcare doesn't solve the problem. So I think, again, this holistic view on this is so important, and it is an interplay between hospitals, governments, small research-based companies, and large companies. And I think we need to try to find a mechanism where we take this super helicopter view to address the problem, because we can solve individual parts of it quite easy, but that doesn't solve what we need to solve, and that's better and more affordable healthcare.
Do we have any questions in the audience? Yes.
Hi, Bill Gordon with American Insights. I wanted to ask you about the follow-up to the initial digital, say, meeting. First, the physicians contacted digitally, but what happens there? Are the other meetings physical, or do you just continue the digital process until someone needs to go to a hospital?
What I can say is, from the point of view of the company that I mentioned in this presentation called cognitive analytics. So most of the problems that the patients see, the first that require a primary care attention, is simple problem that could just end up with a simple advice, which is what happens in Sweden. If you are sick, you call the home physician, the nurse picks up and gives you advice, go and take this medicine from the pharmacy. The next step is that if they require any particular investigation or particular X-ray, ultrasound, whatever, they are referred to the secondary care hospital that is nearby. And that secondary care hospital will do complete physical examination, give you the required advice, and then they are given the treatment at that particular time. If there are medicines that are needed that are not available locally, it should be possible to have those medicines delivered to you from some other location. So Amazon Prime in India is guaranteeing delivery in less than 24 hours when your home is in Chennai and the product is delivered from Delhi. So the distance are shrinking. The affordability, I mean, the kind of delivery of healthcare is much simpler. And we are just positioning ourselves to take advantage of all these things. So you need a primary contact point with the physician. The next step is to refer them to a secondary care hospital. There will be one in every district. These are all private hospitals. These are not government-run hospitals. So when you go to the private hospital, of course, you get the attention. Then once you get the treatment that is needed, of course, the treatment is available either directly or through the internet.
Can I have a follow-up question to that? Because there are a lot of existing solutions in India that work well, that are indigenous, that are giving or making affordable healthcare possible. Yet Sweden has a lot to offer as well, and Sweden it ranks really high in every single healthcare index. What is it that we need to transfer? How can we from here, what is it we need to focus on now to enable that affordable healthcare to actually answer these global challenges that we have?
The most important thing that Sweden specializes in being an expert is preventive healthcare. Say, for instance, when you take the example of this swine flu that was hitting the world at some time point, the Swedish government asked the National Surveillance Center, the Bacteriology Institute in Stockholm, what do we do? Should we vaccinate everybody? Or should we just wait and treat the people who needs to be treated when they get sick with swine flu? So the epidemiology department, as well as the Surveillance Center for Sweden, recommended after doing a study, saying that you go and vaccinate everybody in Sweden. It will cost you 5 billion kronas. But if you don't do anything, it will cost you 60 billion kronas and 65 people will die. So here, the government stepped in, took the initiative, vaccinated the entire population. Of course, there are pockets of people who resisted taking the particular vaccine, but most of the people took it. And now, what is the cost saving? This is something like more than 50 billion kronas. So from our point of view of delivering healthcare, from Sweden, we think ahead. We anticipate the problem, and we try to address the problem in a much different way. Whereas India is a big country. The problems are many, and the problems are different in different parts of the state. So wellness is something that is very important, and Ayurveda in India is something that provides the wellness. But they cannot cure illness. They can claim, but they cannot. You need allopathic medicine to cure illness. So the solutions for wellness, the solutions for illness, they are all there. It is just that you need to help people connect. And what the digital health, which Sweden is very good at, you see this company called Carani that is advertised everywhere. From a small company, they have got more than $1 billion valuation. And this is something that's going to transform. The problem in India is how to provide healthcare services to the rural people. And the digital solutions is going to bring the leap, right? We heard somebody talking about we are jumping from 2G to 4G. Now we are jumping from class 4 to class 6. So we need to really jump ahead and try to address the problem. And if you can address the problem of the rural people, which a digital solution can provide, it's a huge leap. And we need to really get connected in that particular. And Sweden is the world leader. Ericsson is bringing 5G. 5G comes to India. It's going to transform the landscape.
One last question for Carsten then, because you mentioned rural. You are working in screening on a project that brings screening so that we can actually identify the people who need the help. How do you work on that project? How do you do the screening? How do you apply Swedish methodology to a problematic like that?
Well, we try to work with partners that help us with the vetting process of selecting the best suited companies, the best suited partners in that process. And also try to sort of use a diversity model there with companies, for example, enabling the connectivity and having other field of expertise to see what actually could come out of it.
Okay, we have 2 more minutes. One more question, the gentleman in the back.
Thank you. This is kind of piggybacking the doctor's last statement and Shampa's as well. How do you, with kind of the advent of this new digital method of bringing healthcare to the masses from great distances, how do you bring along, with regard to lower class and, let's say, poor people who are, I won't say suspicious, but more customary to, more used to customary solutions, say, like Ayurveda or something like that, where it may not be effective? How do you mitigate this new efficiency to people who are either not exposed, maybe suspicious, or just averse to more modernized modes of medicine?
Who wants to take that question?
Yeah.
So basically the solution for the villages or rural people is something simple. Still, lots of women in villages are delivering babies through the help of the midwives. So they don't go to the hospital. So they don't go and get the help of the vaccination that the hospital will provide. So there are local solutions that are available. But in order to help them reach better solutions that we are having, the simplest and easiest is to connect them digitally. And if this is something, I mean, there's going to be a lot of hurdles. There are regulatory things that we need to address, and there are so many other acceptability that we need to address, there data integrity that we need to address. Of course, all these things will be addressed and everything will be compliant. But this is a huge opportunity. If you have a smartphone with a camera, you can do a lot of wonders in terms of healthcare delivery. So that's the point that we need to address. And with the amount of gigabyte cost that's dropping like crazy, especially in the last few years, the affordability becomes an easily achievable goal.
No, I think, I mean, you talk about education, and I mean, a device like that is a super educational tool, so,
Exactly.
so I fully agree.
I'm glad you took that question, because I was going to say make a Bollywood movie about it. It would probably have great reach. But with that, I think we're wrapping up now. I just want to mention that next year there is going to be...
Slide? You want
No,
to
no.
show- no?
You want to show
Well,
you?
I can
Yeah,
mention
okay,
it.
why don't you?
I think
If
it's
that's okay.
important, because what we have done has received a lot of attention from many industries, and we often get the question, can we copy it? And I don't think it's possible to copy, because what we really have tried to do is to build on the Scandinavian business culture, the Scandinavian way of collaborating, culture, what have you. So whatever you intend to do in India, base it on your local culture and your local business way of doing things. So I don't think our model will work in India, but I'm sure there are models that will work. But as you say, it's about connecting people and find your way of connecting them, and not only digital. You need to meet as well.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
So as we get his last slide up, I just want to mention that next year is the year of health between India and Sweden. It's been 10 years since we signed our MOU, and we'll be celebrating by hopefully 2 ministerial visits, one outgoing and one incoming, and heightened activities within the healthcare space. But I invite all of you to join in, because this is not a question, as I said in the beginning, of working in a silo. If you're talking about smart cities, if you're talking about waste management, everything affects health or is affected by health. So please reach out to us. Carsten would be the right person to go to on the ground. I would be the person to come to when in Sweden. And if you want to be a part of this, us together with the Socialdepartementet will make sure that your interests are realized. Thank you. Is that your last slide?
Yeah, I just wanted to send some inspiration. So these numbers are quite unique from an incubator. And it's all achieved by having no rules, no contracts. It's only people-to-people interactions. So you can do business in different ways. And I think we need to be more innovative in how we collaborate, not only define innovation as something that happens in a hospital or a test tube. It's also how we choose to interact and do business with each other.